am Tato Cat. Welcome to my channel. Today we are playing Asphyxia. Last time we kind of got schooled by DeQuincy. She told us all the truth and that we're too obsessed with Lillian and that we love her as a person, but Lillian can never love anybody ever. Kind of. And now she's saying we're annoying. Pretty much where we left off. Alright, let's continue. If Lillian really has grown tired of you, I can see why. You would try the patience of a saint, and Lillian certainly is not one of those, no matter how much I admire her. DeQuincy paused and smiled. Don't lose hope, though. Though things may seem bleak now, I'm sure she will change her mind in due course. I've not spent the last year of my life shadowing Lillian for nothing. Until that moment comes, however, I suppose there's nothing you can do save to wait for it. You should be well equipped to handle that much, I think. I think you would wait for Lillian until the world came to an end. If you had to. So you can confess to her anew. And so she could break your heart all over again. I do wonder, though. DeQuincy pondered, reaching into her pocket for her third cigarette. The night air was cool, as were her feelings towards Samantha, and she wanted something to warm her up. Is any of this really worth it? What?
On the shoreline at the sunset, watching seabirds swim, beating the sand with my head in my hand. This luxury pushing our souls
Huh. Did it get a bad end? Or is this is one of those games with no good endings?
only faking with brainwashing.
Okay, just in case that was like DeQuincy's bad ending, let's try this again and let's be less nice to everyone else. Alright, so we'll just skip over all this. Of course, we'll approach DeQuincy. This time we won't say anything. Samantha's shoulders slumped, and not knowing what to say, she chose to remain mute. What could she say, really, when all of Roberta's accusations were accurate? If forced to choose between Roberta and Lillian, Samantha knew she would favor Lillian each and every time, even though spending time with Lillian only hurt her. Roberta could be aloof, but she was neither as cold nor as callous as Lillian could be. Samantha had known Roberta since she was 11 years old, and Roberta had always been there for her, even if she did preface her help with complaints. Samantha still had fond memories of sleeping in Roberta's dorm room during her first year at St. Mary's when she had been anxious and unsure, and capable of spending the night alone. Samantha owed Roberta a lot, but even then, she could only bring herself to like Roberta. That was not to say Samantha did not like Roberta a lot, because she did, but her feelings towards Roberta weren't the same as those she felt towards Lillian. Samantha liked nobody half so much as she liked Lillian Wordsworth. Roberta, perhaps sensing Samantha's thoughts, glared. Her expression was cold, colder in fact than the deepest depths of the ocean. It's fine, Samantha. Don't bother explaining yourself. I know what you really think. But, Bobby, I'm tired, even if you aren't. I think I'm going to take a nap. It was with this remark that Roberta rested her head against the window and shut her eyes. Beyond her, the motorway rolled by, a gray concrete ribbon clustered with cars. And skip. It's nothing. We said that last time. Skip. And this time we'll say nothing about Lillian. Samantha looked at the ground, rendered mute by George's merciless criticisms, because I'm thinking that we were too nice to Lillian, too desperate, and clung on to her too much. So, like, DeQuincy's like, "Oh, you only love Lillian. I can never be friends with you." Or whatever. Because to me, it seems like Samantha actually loves Lillian. Like, this is like an obsession that's beyond friendship, but she doesn't seem to be able to tap into that. And, well, at least with this playthrough, I don't know what her story is like with the other characters. But even DeQuincy pointed out that DeQuincy only admires her and loves her, but she doesn't love her as a person. Samantha looked at the ground, rendered mute by George's merciless criticisms. How could she respond when a small, mutinous part of her being, a part she didn't want to admit she possessed, thought Georgia had a point? It was true, Lillian could be pompous and she could be self-serving. She was cold and she was distant. Samantha had thought these things before and more, besides. The only difference was, unlike Georgia, Samantha would never say such things aloud. She loved Lillian too much for that. Georgia snorted. So, tell me, as I have no reference point to go on, being fortunate enough to have never been deluded in my life. Sure. How does it feel to be besotted with an ice princess so in love with her own genius she would sooner wax below? Yep, we read this part. Here she is. And, yep, we still berate her. And we're going to try to change the subject. Hey, oh, it's nothing. Not really. It's nothing. Not really. Lillian raised an eyebrow. Now, that sounds awfully familiar. What do you mean? Samantha tensed, her fingers tightening about the loose fabric of her school skirt. She wasn't entirely sure how, but she had the distinct impression that she had disappointed Lillian. That's what you said to me earlier when I inquired about your welfare. You told me there was nothing wrong, though it was plain as day there was. I might have said that, but it was not out of malice. It was because I didn't want to trouble you with my petty concerns. But I wouldn't have asked you how you're feeling if I wasn't troubled about your concerns, regardless of how petty they might be. But that... Samantha winced. That isn't fair, Lily. What isn't fair? You aren't. You're so contradictory all the time. You say that you're concerned about me, but when I tell you how I feel, you turn the other way. Quite frankly, I don't know what I should say to you to earn your forgiveness. How can I when I don't know what it was I initially did, which has made me so very worthy of your scorn? Samantha breathed heavily, one hand held to her chest. She would not normally have snapped at Lillian like this, but the gulf of silence that stretched between the pair had managed over time to eat away at Samantha's usual reservations, and perhaps her overt reveration of Lillian too. Though Samantha respected Lillian a great deal and still she cared immensely for her opinion, she couldn't hide the fact, often in their friendship, she had felt slighted, belittled, abused, unappreciated, sidelined, and snubbed. Lillian Wordsworth may have been a promising young poet, but she was considerably less talented when it came to the arcane arts of being a good friend. Maybe Samantha thought this was how Roberta felt about her. Hadn't Samantha treated Roberta in a similar manner? Though Samantha's ears still stung from criticisms Roberta had thrown at her, she did not blame her friend for her outbursts. Doing so would be grossly hypocritical.
You've not been fair to me, Lily. I know you dislike it when I act Malden, so I've been trying to disguise my feelings, but that doesn't seem to satisfy you either. At this point, I don't know what it is you want. Please enlighten me, because I would very much like to know. Samantha, calm down. We can't have a discussion like this. I'm trying to be calm, but you're not making it this easy on me. I don't care for being spoken to like a petulant child. Don't you now?
Lillian's eyes hardened.
Then start behaving like an adult. This isn't a question of maturity. I'm just trying to tell you how I feel. Why must my emotions make me inferior to you? Why do you never take me seriously? I'm tired of being treated like this by you. I thought we were friends.
Did you now? Lillian surveyed Samantha calmly, her hands folded in her lap, in a composed manner that did little to calm Samantha's shaken nerves. Though Lillian wasn't smiling, there was not a trace of smile on her face. She looked horribly smug, draped as if she was in her swan-like serenity.
We were friends, Samantha. I'll grant you that. But how can we be friends now? I believe you made your feelings about me quite apparent. It doesn't seem like you have much love left to spare for me, and I have none left for you. This is why I stopped speaking to you in the first place. Our conversations always go around in circles. It's tiresome.
I'm beginning to feel like you can't win Lillian no matter what path you take. Though I wasn't actually trying to go for her. I wonder if, even if you're on her path, if you get accepted. Like, is this just a game with only depressive, sad endings? Samantha gasped as though the air had been sucked out of her lungs. It was true she had been angry with Lillian, but she hadn't expected Lillian to counter her quite so coldly. Even now, she still wanted to be Lillian's friend. Perhaps she wanted to be more than that. Samantha knew full well that Lillian wasn't always the kindest of people, but that didn't change how greatly Samantha valued her company. Lillian delighted Samantha as nobody else did, with her sense of humor, her quick wit, and her pretty face. Unfortunately, by the same token, nobody upset her quite like Lillian did. Samantha didn't feel sad when she and Lillian argued. That was too meager a word for it. She instead felt devastated. Let Lillian say whatever she pleased about Samantha Coleridge, but at least she'd never been one to do anything by halves.
Lily, do you really no longer want to be my friend? It isn't that I don't want to. I can't.
And skip. Tell a lie. We did that the last time. Skippy, skippy. De Quincy. Skippy, skippy. So far, nothing new. Yep. And still,
I do wonder though.
De Quincy pondered, reaching into her pocket for a third cigarette. The night was cool, as were her feelings towards Samantha, and she wanted something to warm her up.
Is any of this really worth it?
I said that point to make a point. Is any of it really worth it? Being so obsessed and hurting yourself. So now it'll be slower in the credits this time. Ebi-hime worked very hard on this. So it seems like that ending is just the ending. It's not really bad, it's not really good, it's just the way it is. Samantha just couldn't get over Lillian. Thank you for playing. Thank you for creating the game. Okay, so thoughts on the game. It's pretty good. It's a little wordy, but I think that's just because they're turning these people of old school literature into modern times, so it kind of fits the purpose. The art was really pretty, and I feel like it really touches a lot on kind of trying to find your feelings of like this in between love and friendship sort of thing, and dealing with depression, which hits the community really hard. Hits a lot of people really hard, but it is definitely something that plagues a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus community. Oh, it has notes. Let's read this. Thank you for playing through Asphyxia, a strange short story that hopefully evoked a gloomy feeling. As you may already be aware, all the characters in the story were based on real people, British writers who lived in the 18th and 19th centuries. I thought it might be a slightly odd subject matter to base a story around, but given we live in an exciting world where people can date pigeons, anthropomorphize countries, and squeal over cute aircraft carrier girls, I thought it might not be that unusual after all. However, learning is always more exciting when cute girls are involved. All the writers present in the story, save one, were active during the Romantic period and can be classed as romantic writers. Romanticism was an artistic, and let me scroll down. Romanticism was an artistic and literary movement that began in Europe in the mid-18th century and peaked at around the 1850s. Romanticism is often associated with liberal social views. One of the key issues that underpinned the Romantic movement was the French Revolution. The revolution caused people across Europe to rethink how the working class were treated, and many were appalled at how the French peasants had been abused under the reigning monarchs. Romanticism focuses on the aesthetics of natural world and contrasts the beautiful, such as rolling hills, green fields, and blossoming flowers, with sublime, such as rocky cliffs, roaring ocean, and dark caves. the beautiful was typically defined as being feminine, while the sublime was masculine. Well, this is longer than I thought. Romanticism is so often concerned with the natural world because during the 18th century, the Industrial Revolution was well on the way across Europe. It was a time of great change, and cities such as London were growing larger and larger, eating up the pastoral countryside and cloaking everything in a thick smog. Romanticism could be seen then as a wistful, nostalgic look back on the past, and seeks to champion the simple beauties and awe-inspiring sublimity of the natural world. A true romantic is often seen as someone, typically a man. Women were not considered fit for such fancies, who succumb to wistful dreams and flights of fancy, who can lose himself amongst nature and his own lofty thoughts, and who strongly criticizes violence, bloodshed, and inequality amongst the classes. Romantics often hoped they could re-educate what they saw as a stagnating society, and returned once more to the hills and meadows of unblemished idyllic countryside. The main characters of the story, Samantha and Lillian, are based on two of the most famous English romantic writers, Samuel Taylor Coleridge and William Wordsworth. The relationship and the relationship between the rest of the characters are supposed to echo the real relationships between these writers. If you want to learn more about the particular writers these characters are based on, click on the links to the left. And I hope you don't feel too cheated to learn that this is an edutainment game disguised as a girl's love story. Okay. Yeah, so they tell you about, in case you didn't know them, it tells you about all like the characters and each of them, like De Quincey, Pope, Shelley, Southie, they're all here, Wordsworth. So, this game will teach you a lot about romantic poke. It's like Axis Power Italia, personified countries, in case anybody knows that one. But yeah, the art in this game was fantastic. And this is just gonna be a short episode because, well, I didn't realize we're that close to the end of the game when I started this. It has lots of pretty artwork, wonderful music. It's fairly inexpensive, and even though the girl's love wasn't like punch you in the face, it was still completely obviously there. And me being me, I kind of like that not all the endings are happy. Like, that was De Quincey's true ending, and it wasn't exactly happy, because that's how life is. It's not always happy. It's not always going to live. It's not always going to end in a happily ever after sort of moment. It kind of ends on a life lesson of, was what she was doing to herself really worth it in the end? If she could have stopped and kind of let herself move on instead of obsess and get caught up in her feelings, then she could have been happy. She could have had a friendship. But she couldn't cut herself off completely and move on. And she couldn't just be friends either. So, yeah. I would recommend this game to people who are interested in literature. I would not recommend this game to everyone because it is a little bit wordy for the time period, and the characters were overly dramatic, but it suited the fact because she turned these old romantic literature people into people, well, teenage girls. So it worked for me, but I don't think it's going to work for everybody. But if you're okay with a educationally entertaining game, then yeah, I'd recommend it. It was fairly short. It's like about 4 hours, I think. Yeah, anyways, thank you for staying with me for this long. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. Have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon.